Food, movement, rest. Connection, he said slowly, to other people. Yes, Hideo worked alone in his fields, from before light to after dark. His conversations with his wife were almost entirely logistics, the next day's tasks, never anything that touched what he actually carried inside him. He was, in every meaningful sense, isolated, despite living with his family and working within sight of his neighbors. Renjiro touched each corner of the frame in turn. Here is what I have come to understand. Watching dozens of patients over many years, the four corners are not simply four separate areas requiring separate attention. They are connected to each other in a specific way. Presence at the table, the kind required for Harahachi-bu, is the same capacity 1,635. A farmer named Hideo collapsed in his field, and when the traveling herbalist reached him, he found a man who ate carefully, who worked his body every day, who by every visible measure should have been strong. He was not strong. He was hollowed out from the inside, and none of his careful habits had stopped it. The herbalist's young apprentice, Kenzo, watched his master examine the man and expected a diagnosis about food, or about exhaustion, or about some illness with a name. What his master said instead confused him completely. He has been healing one room in a burning house. Kenzo did not understand. He would spend the next year learning why a man who did everything right could still come apart, and why the answer was not about doing more or doing better. It was about a single Japanese word the West has never properly translated. And once you understand it, you will see exactly which room in your own house has been burning while you carefully tended a different one. Chapter 1. The Farmer Who Did Everything Right. Kenzo reached the field, seconds behind his master, and what he saw stopped him before he could think. Hideo was on the ground between two rows of rice, conscious but unable to lift himself, his hands pressed flat against the earth as though checking that it was still there. His wife knelt beside him, repeating his name in a voice that had already stopped expecting an answer and started rehearsing grief. The morning was ordinary in every way that made the scene feel wrong. Birds in the trees at the field's edge, the smell of wet earth and rice stalks, a neighbor's dog barking somewhere down the road, oblivious. Nothing about the day had announced that this was coming. Master Renjiro knelt beside the farmer and did not reach for the bag of herbs at his side. Not yet. He simply looked. At the man's eyes, his color, the way his chest moved. "Hideo," he said, "can you hear me?" The farmer nodded, barely. "Tell me what you ate yesterday." The question seemed strange to Kenzo, given what he was looking at. A man could not stand, and his master was asking about meals. But Hideo answered, in fragments, his voice thin. Rice, vegetables from his own garden, fish twice a week, careful portions. He had heard the wisdom of eating until he was satisfied but never full, and he had practiced it faithfully for years. He said this almost with pride, even now, even on the ground. "And your work?" "The fields, every day, from before light until after dark." He was, by any measure Kenzo could name, a disciplined man. He did not drink to excess. He did not waste his days. He ate with restraint and worked with diligence, two virtues that every teacher Kenzo had ever encountered held up as the foundation of a sound life. And he was on the ground in his own field, unable to stand, his body simply refusing to continue. They carried him to his home, Kenzo taking one side and a neighbor the other. Hideo's weight strange and unfamiliar, the weight of a man who had always seemed too strong to need carrying. Renjiro examined him further at the house, asked more questions, and eventually sat back with an expression Kenzo had not seen before, not confusion. Something closer to recognition of a pattern he had seen many times and still found difficult to watch. Outside, walking back toward the road, Kenzo finally asked, "He did everything correctly, Sensei. His food, his work. How is he like this?" Renjiro did not answer immediately. He walked for a while in silence, the way he often did when a question deserved more than a quick response. "He has been healing one room in a burning house," he finally said. Kenzo waited for more. None came, not yet. "You will understand by the end of this season," Renjiro said. "For now, only know this. Hideo will recover, but not because we give him better food or because he rests more. He will recover when he understands something his careful habits have been hiding from him for years." That evening, Kenzo could not stop turning the morning over in his mind. He had assumed, the way most people assumed, that a careful diet and consistent labor were close to the entirety of what a sound life required. Hideo had both. Hideo was on the ground in his own field. If careful food and disciplined work were not enough, Kenzo did not yet know what else there could possibly be. Chapter 2. Chōwa, the law beneath every symptom. The next morning, Renjiro took Kenzo to the small workshop behind his house, where dried herbs hung in careful rows, and the air carried the layered smell of 100 different remedies. He did not begin with herbs. He took down a simple wooden frame, the kind used for stretching cloth, and showed Kenzo how it worked. 4 sides, each one connected to the others by the tension of the frame itself. "Push on one corner," he said. Kenzo pushed. The whole frame shifted, every side responding, even the sides he had not touched. Now imagine the frame is a person. One side is the body, what you eat, how you move. One side is the mind, what you think, what occupies your attention. One side is rest, the space where nothing is demanded of you. And one side is connection, to other people, to your work, to something beyond your own concerns. He set the frame down. Push on any one side hard enough, and the others move. Neglect any one side long enough, and the others cannot hold their shape, no matter how carefully you maintain them. This is Chōwa. Harmony, Kenzo said. He knew the word. The translation is correct and almost useless, Renjiro said, because in the West, and increasingly even here, harmony has come to mean something soft, a pleasant feeling, a nice to have, beneath the real work of fixing problems. Chōwa is not a feeling, it is a structural law, the same as gravity. The frame does not care whether you believe in it. Push only one corner, year after year, and the frame will eventually fail, regardless of how much force you put into that one corner. Kenzo thought of Hideo. His food was careful, he said slowly. His body was worked hard every day. 2 sides of the frame, Renjiro said, tended with real discipline. I do not doubt it is something else entirely. Kenzo did not yet know what that something was. He would spend the next several months finding out, one principle at a time, each one a different side of the same frame. Chapter 3. Hara Hachi Bu, the principle everyone misuses. Eat until you are 8 parts full. The first principle Renjiro taught Kenzo was one Kenzo already believed he understood. Hara Hachi Bu, Renjiro said one morning, watching Kenzo eat. You know this phrase. Eat until 80% full, Kenzo said. Hideo practiced this. He told us so himself. He practiced the instruction. He did not understand the principle. There is a significant difference, and that difference is the first room of the burning house. Renjiro sat across from him. Tell me what Hideo's meals were like, not what he ate, how he ate. Kenzo thought back to what the farmer had described. Quick meals, eaten standing or walking between tasks. Careful portions, yes, but eaten without attention, the mind already moving to the next row of the field even as the hand lifted the bowl. He stopped at 80%, Renjiro said, but he never actually tasted the 80% he ate. He was managing a quantity. He was not present for a meal. He picked up his own bowl. Hara Hachibu is not primarily about quantity. It is about the quality of attention that allows you to accurately sense quantity at all. A person eating quickly, distractedly, with their mind already elsewhere, cannot feel the difference between 80% full and completely full. The signal exists in the body. It requires presence to receive it. He took a slow bite, chewed completely, set the bowl down before continuing. This is why the instruction fails for so many people who try to follow it as a rule. They count, they estimate, they guess, at 80% using their eyes and their plate rather than their body. And because they are not actually present with the meal, the guess is almost always wrong, usually too high, sometimes too low in a way that leaves them undernourished and irritable. Kenzo turned this over. So the discipline is not stopping at a number. The discipline is attention. The stopping point follows naturally from attention the way the destination follows naturally from a clear path. You cannot will yourself to feel 80% full while your mind is occupied with the next field, the next task, the next worry. You can only create the conditions, through presence, in which the body's actual signal becomes audible. Researchers studying mindful eating have found that the speed and attentional state during a meal predicts satiety accuracy far more reliably than any conscious counting of portions. Studies tracking eating behavior have found that participants eating without distraction consume meaningfully less and report greater satisfaction than those eating the identical food while distracted. Despite no instruction about quantity at all, the body's signal was simply allowed to be heard. Hideo had followed the rule and missed the principle for years. He had eaten carefully measured portions while his mind ran through the work still ahead of him, and his body's actual voice, the one that would have told him precisely when enough was enough, had been drowned out by the noise of everything else he was carrying. "This is one corner of the frame," Renjiro said. "Tended, by his account, but tended without presence, which means it was never truly tended at all. Voluntary movement, even when the voluntary movement involves less total exertion. The difference appears to lie not in the intensity of the movement, but in the autonomy and attentional quality with which it is performed. Movement chosen and attended to restores in ways that movement merely endured does not." Hideo's body was strong, Renjiro said. Strength was never his deficiency, but strength built entirely through extraction, with no movement ever dedicated purely to restoration, eventually produces exactly what we saw in his field. A body that has given everything and received nothing back in the same currency. Kenzo began practicing ugoki himself, simple sequences each morning before his other duties, movement with no purpose beyond itself. The first days felt strange, almost wasteful, his mind insisting that time spent moving without producing anything was time stolen from his actual work. But he noticed, within weeks, something he had not expected. The labor of his actual work, carrying herbs, walking long distances to gather plants, felt different, not easier. The distances were the same, the weight of his bag no lighter, but it no longer left the particular hollow exhaustion he had not previously known, was avoidable, the kind that settled into the bones rather than the muscles, the kind no amount of sleep had ever quite resolved. "You are beginning to feel the difference," Renjiro observed one evening, watching Kenzo move through the sequence with more ease than he had a month before. "That difference is not strength. You have not become stronger. You have become someone whose body is no longer only spending. It has somewhere to deposit, as well as somewhere to withdraw from." Renjiro paused in the garden, looking at the small sequence of movements he had just shown Kenzo, and his voice carried something that seemed to extend past the moment. "What I am teaching you was not invented in this garden. It has been observed by healers across every age, in every place, by anyone who paid close enough attention to watch what actually restores a person rather than what merely looks like restoration. In times far from this one, others will face Hideo's exact condition, careful in one room while another room burns unnoticed." He looked at Kenzo, but his attention seemed to reach further than the workshop. "If you recognize yourself in what happened to that farmer, walk this path with us. The frame is the same frame in every age. The work begins with noticing which corner has been neglected." Kenzo bowed, the words settling into him slower than he expected, but settling nonetheless. Chapter 5. Ma, the space, the modern world eliminated. The interval between actions, without which no action means anything. The third principle was the one Kenzo found hardest to grasp, because it was not a thing to do, it was an absence. Renjiro introduced it by asking Kenzo to describe Hideo's days in full detail, from waking to sleeping. Kenzo, having visited the farmer several more times during his recovery, could describe it precisely. Wake before light, immediately to the fields. Work without pause until the midday meal, eaten quickly. Back to the fields, until dark. A late meal, conversation with his wife about the next day's tasks, then sleep, often interrupted by half-formed worry about the harvest. "Find the space," Renjiro said. "The space, Sensei?" "In what you just described, find the moment where nothing was being asked of him, where he was not working, not eating with purpose, not planning, not worrying about what came next. Find the interval." Kenzo searched the account in his mind and found nothing. Every moment of Hideo's day served some function. Even his sleep was occupied by the next day's demands. "There is none," Kenzo said. "This is Ma," Renjiro said. "Or rather, this is its absence, which is the actual subject we need to discuss. Ma is the interval between two events, the pause that is not empty but is in fact what gives the events on either side of it their meaning and their proportion. A single note, played without silence around it, is not music. It is only sound. The silence is what makes the note a note. He sat across from Kenzo. Hideo's life had become sound without silence, action without interval, and a life without Ma does not simply feel exhausting. It loses the capacity to process what is happening to it. Every meal, every task, every conversation arrives and is immediately replaced by the next, with no space in which the mind and body can actually metabolize what just occurred. Kenzo thought of his own days, busy with herb gathering and study, and recognized something uncomfortable. "I do this too," he said. "Most do. The modern farmer, the modern merchant, increasingly even the modern monk, all of them filling every interval with the next obligation, believing that the interval itself is waste, time that could be spent producing something. This belief is the precise mechanism by which Chōwa breaks down, because Ma is not waste. It is the structural pause that allows the body to actually absorb what the other corners of the frame have provided. He used a simple example. Food eaten without any pause afterward to sit with the meal does not digest the way food eaten, with even a brief period of stillness, afterward digests. Sleep entered directly from a mind still moving through tomorrow's tasks does not restore the way sleep entered from a settled mind restores. The benefit of the action depends on the interval that follows it, not merely on the action itself. Hideo ate his careful portions and immediately returned to the field. He performed ugoki in the limited sense of physical movement, but never paused afterward to let his body register what the movement had done. Every corner of his frame received some attention. None of them received Ma, and without Ma, attention given to any one thing cannot actually settle into the body. It simply passes through, leaving no lasting deposit. The practice Renjiro gave Kenzo was specific. Before moving from one significant activity to the next, a meal to work, work to rest, rest to conversation, pause. Not for a long period. Even a handful of breaths, taken with full attention to the transition itself, before allowing the next demand to begin. "This will feel like you are losing time," Renjiro said. "You are not. You are creating the only condition under which the time you have already spent can actually take effect." Chapter 6. Tsunagari no Michi, the path that ties the frame together. Our principle, the way of what connects everything. This principle had no name in any text Renjiro had studied. He explained this directly to Kenzo near the end of his training. "What I am about to show you, I did not learn from a scroll. I built it from watching enough patients like Hideo to see a pattern none of my teachers had named directly." He brought Kenzo back to the wooden frame from their first lesson. "You understand now that the frame has 4 corners. Food, taken with presence. Movement, undertaken for restoration rather than only extraction. Rest, with genuine interval rather than only sleep. And one more corner I have not yet named directly, though you have felt its absence in Hideo's case from the beginning." Kenzo thought back through everything. Jiro gestured at his own simple sequence. "This accomplishes nothing visible. No field is planted. No harvest is gathered. And yet it does something. Hideo's entire day of labor never did. It returns something to the body rather than only taking from it. Modern research on the physiological effects of movement draws a similar distinction, though in different terms. Studies comparing occupational physical activity to structured voluntary movement have repeatedly found that hard physical labor, despite its intensity, often correlates with worse cardiovascular and mental health outcomes than moderate voluntary capacity required for genuine connection with another person. The restoration that comes from ugoki is the same capacity that allows the mind to actually rest during Ma, rather than simply lying still while still working. And connection, real connection, is itself a form of Ma, an interval in which a person is received rather than only producing. He looked at Kenzo directly. "This is Tsunagari no Michi, the path of what connects. It is not a 5th corner of the frame. It is the recognition that the frame is not 4 separate sticks held together by their corners. It is one structure, and the same quality of attention, presence, genuine and undivided, is what each corner actually requires. Strength and presence in one corner,